Hello, everybody. Happy May the 4th.
It's May the 4th.
Yeah. So Andy, of course, he brought out some goodies
From
that
my
he
own
owns.
personal collection.
Yeah, his own
I'm not faking it when I say I'm a big Star Wars fan.
He's got much cooler things than me. He was showing it off to me, and I was so jealous. It's really awesome. All the insides and lights in it, and just all
now
the
I have
stuff.
now I have Mandalorian helmet hair.
All right, well, welcome to our Tuesday show. It is another big week in comics. We are happy to relay that to you. I mean, you can kind of see. I got Batman 108 in front of
It's
me.
a pretty
Andy
big
has
week.
War of the Bounty Hunters, probably the
Yes.
most anticipated two books of the week. But we have a whole lot more to go over. So I'm Jason,
I'm Andy.
and we're with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. And every Tuesday we sit down, we divide out the books, we fight over which ones we want to read. We read the books, and then we do this relatively spoiler-free show where we tell you about the issues. We'll mention if they're first appearances, anything sort of major without telling you everything.
Yeah.
We leave the pleasure of reading it to you,
Yes.
the
All
viewer.
the we'll tell you some of the good bits, but we'll leave some of the other good bits for your discovering.
Yeah.
Because there's some good stuff this week.
hmm Okay, so since it is May the 4th, it only makes sense that we should start with a Star Wars book.
Yes, so this week is Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters Alpha. It is not number one. This is kind of your zero issue, um, setting the stage for what's to come in about a month. So we have this, and then we have, I think, each week leading up to it, there's a prelude that's going to be in different books, but it all begins here. So this is really cool. This is by Greg Pak, or this one's Charles Soule
Yep.
with Steve McNiven doing the art.
He's sort of the event showrunner.
Yeah, it's
there,
funny
Charles
because
Soule.
like then your main ones like Greg Pak will be doing Darth Vader and everything like that. So this, if you can't tell, if you didn't know, focuses on Boba Fett post Empire Strikes Back, pre Return of the Jedi. He has Han Solo in carbonite, and he is transporting him to Jabba the Hutt. Well, doesn't go that well.
Yeah,
It
what
is
could
not.
go wrong?
It is not a point A to point B trip. I will not reveal everything, but I'll tell you kind of some of the instigation for this. So, on his flight, he realizes something is wrong with Han in the carbonite. This was a process that was never intended for humans. It was actually always intended, little Star Wars knowledge, it was intended for like luggage and stuff.
I
It
was
was a
wondering
way
about that.
of like keeping things together. It was a transport, but not for humans.
Mm.
So that's why in Return of the Jedi they have to check and make sure that he's well. Well, in this you learn maybe he is not so well in there, and this is kind of a problem because Boba Fett has to deliver him
He needs to be alive.
alive
Yeah.
and undamaged to Jabba. Well, he decides to maybe make a detour to someone who can tell him what's going on. And this person, like everyone in the Star Wars galaxy, says, I can help you, but it's going to cost you.
Right.
This leads Boba Fett on a little adventure only for this one issue, um, that is going to be setting up how this is going to go. So we see on some of the variant covers, and you've probably seen that Boba Fett is wearing a black
Yeah.
Mandalorian suit of armor.
I want to hear about the black armor.
That is explained. It. I don't want to cool your jets. I don't know if it will make an appearance after this issue. It is a very cool aesthetic. There is a reason he does it. Because his armor is pretty recognizable in the galaxy. So he kind of needs to do a little undercover work with this black modified armor. And something happens in the second part of this issue that makes Han the thing that now everyone is going after. So this is really cool. I'm excited to see. I'm guessing the follow-up issues are going to be each of, we've got Dr. Aphra, we've got the main bounty hunters book, we've got the regular Star Wars book, and we've got Darth Vader all tying in. I'm guessing those are going to be them all going, we need to go get him, and this is our reason. But this is how that goes into play. It's really cool. There is some new characters introduced. I don't know how big of a part they will play. It definitely is a setup issue. I think it's very important if you're going to read the War of the Bounty Hunter story. Like, you have to read this one. It kind of spells it all out for you. But I think the big takeaways in this are, for one, the story, two, the awesome black armor. There are some great fight scenes. There are some new characters. I won't say every character makes it out alive, as you would imagine in a book with Boba Fett.
Yep.
But highly recommended. I think this is going to be a huge event. This is probably the biggest Star Wars event that Marvel has done since they've got the license to do it, which has been a while now. They have not done a book that an event that ties all of their books together. Yeah. So this is going to have a lot of really cool one-shots. So we're slowly finding out there's a checklist in the back of this, which has some books I don't even think have been announced yet. That is really cool when you read them. I mean, everybody's going to want to put them on their pull list or freak out about them. But really, really great first issue. Also, some great variant covers. So first we have the Crimson variant cover. We've been speculating why they're doing the Crimson.
Right.
There's
it has significance.
If it has any significance, or if we're just
thinking about it
about it a little too hard. Which, if you're a Star Wars fan, that's all you do is think about Star Wars way too hard and dig way too deep. We have the U variant, which is a really awesome swinging into action variant. These are all the open order variants. Which I think this is going to be the hot one if you haven't seen it. This is kind of the open order variant that actually has him in his black suit. This is the John Tyler Christopher action figure variant. It even says Boba Fett black armor on it.
You mentioned him going undercover. It makes me think like Boba Fett noir.
Yeah, it's undercover for him, which is still really flashy and explosive.
Shooting anyone that gets in his way.
So this is really interesting too. I'm guessing a lot of people probably have questions about this. This is War of the Bounty Hunters director's cut. This is interesting that a director's cut comes out the same day as the, I guess, studio cut. I don't know what you would call the theatrical cut. This is really cool. So a lot of the times we get director's cuts or extended editions that are mostly just the black and white, and they have the pencils or they have the script in them. This is actually the entire first issue. This is the main issue, colors, everything. So you could actually get this instead of the other one if you wanted to, and you still get the same book. And then it has the entire book, unlettered, black and white inks as well. So you get that bonus. And then it actually has all of the variant covers in it as well that you can see. So really, really cool. I believe it may be, I think about $1
I think it's a buck more than the regular.
It's $5.99. But you also, that cover is awesome with the black armor there. So if you're a super fan, you'll probably want to get all of them. But I'm going to get all of them. But it is not necessary. If you just are okay paying $1 extra and getting a little bit more content, you can actually just get the director's cut and get everything there as well. So
see, that's definitely some of what we imagine the show to be about. Is, you know, it's tomorrow. People are going in their shops. They're going, well, what's the difference between the director's cut and the regular?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even know because you're the one who got to read them.
Yeah.
Now I know.
Yeah. So really cool that it's all there. But definitely, I think definitely the biggest book this week, even though there is Batman 108. For a Star Wars fan, I think this is the big, and I think this will get a lot of people who haven't been reading Star Wars. It's a great jumping on point. If you're familiar with the character of Boba Fett, which most people are, I mean, it's an easy slide right in, and you got what's going on.
Yeah. Okay, speaking of Batman 108, This book has been highly anticipated. I mean, I feel like people have been asking us about it and talking about it for just like half a year. And I got to read an advanced copy of this many, many weeks ago. I think over a month ago, I
I
feel
know
like.
it's so hard to keep up with now.
So, of course, one of the big takeaways is right there on the cover, Miracle Molly. But there's more to the book than that. So, Batman 107 ended with a character in disguise who called himself Matches
Hmm.
trying to join this new group of criminals called the Unsanity Collective. So, I think anybody who knows enough Batman knows that he has this alter ego he does when he tries to infiltrate
It's like his
places.
criminal character.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. When he doesn't want to wear a mask, and his name is Matches Malone. So this is like an updated version of this that James Tynion's sort of doing,
Hmm.
where he tells them, my name is Matches,"
Hmm.
and that's sort of where the last issue ended. It didn't seem like they trusted him very much. So to talk about this issue, I will try not to spoil stuff. There's a lot that happens in it. It is a very eventful issue. I really enjoyed it, but I do have to tell you a few things, to entice.
Yeah.
So let's just say Matches isn't very well received. In fact, I almost think that Tynion is trying to show, there's that old style Batman where he could get away with tricks like
Yeah.
that. My Batman's a little bit more grim. That's not going to work so easily. No one's going to look at somebody with a fake mustache and a name like Matches and just be like, "Oh, you're okay. That sounds
Yeah.
like a villain." So I almost think it's a little bit of like humor, a little bit of, this Batman's a little different. So he makes it into the Insanity Collective's lair, not necessarily in the way he wants to make it in, under great suspicion. In fact, they might even beat him up a little bit.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So you get a bunch of first appearances with this. I'll just go ahead and say, obviously, Miracle Molly. There's a first appearance of the leader of the Unsanity Collective, whose name is Master Wise. There's another character who hasn't been talked about much. Her name is Squeak, and she's one of these characters you get the sense that something major is going to happen
Hmm.
with her. She's just sort of cutesy, like, why are you hanging out with criminals? She's got a squeaky voice that she wants to turn into a weapon. I have a feeling
It's
this
kind
is
of
a
like seeding
character.
a big character
I
just in the
think so, and
background.
it might even be a character who ends up dying just to make everyone, the gravity of things
Yeah.
go up. But I think Squeak's going to actually be something as well. Um, Also in this issue, before I tell you more about it, the identity and origin of Peacekeeper 01 is revealed in this issue. They do go into that in a side story with Simon Saint. He is kind of getting somebody to become Peacekeeper 01. So that's happening while Batman, or while
Matches.
Matches,
Don't give it
yeah,
away.
is in infiltrating the Insanity Collective. So they don't really trust him. Miracle Molly actually kind of speaks up for him and explains what the deal is with the Unsanity Collective. Like, they're a group of mercenaries. They've been hired to do some stuff. They're not necessarily like cutthroat villains who are trying to
Yeah.
take over the world. They're sort of mercenaries. And she explains to Batman that their whole thing is they believe in second chances. They believe that a lot of people have lived lives they didn't really mean to live. And so to get a second chance, you have to give up your past life.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter who you are. And so even though they don't trust this Matches guy, she's like, oh, well, maybe he is a double agent, but maybe if he believes in what we believe in, he'll give up his life. Now, I say that, and it's easy for somebody to lie.
Yeah.
It's not that simple. You can't just say, "Oh, I give up my life. I'm with the Unsanity Collective." They have a way to erase your mind permanently.
Ooh.
So you literally have to lose your entire past. In fact, Miracle Molly doesn't know her past.
I wonder if that's gonna come into play at
Well,
some point.
I already think it will, because there is one panel that shows what she looked like before she became Miracle Molly. It's
Mm.
really interesting. I mean, worth the price of admission
Yeah.
just to hear her story and to hear sort of the philosophy of the group. They're not very villainous. In fact, Miracle Molly, she comes off, she has a lot of charisma, she's actually pretty friendly, she has a lot of empathy.
Mm.
I don't really see her as a villain. I'm pretty sure she's not going to be a villain, other than maybe she, comes into conflict with what Batman wants to do.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more talking between them than fighting. but it's very interesting. Her abilities, she's really good with technology, and so the Squeak character wants her to make a voice. There's a lot more that happens in this than that, though. I mean,
And
I'm
it's not
saying a
even a
lot.
double-sized issue.
No, it's not. And so I'll leave it at that. There's all those things. There is a backup story with Ghostmaker, and in that, there's the first appearance of a character named Kid Kawaii. She's a female assassin who is in like the mind of this android.
Hmm.
So that's the backup story, which is really cool. Okay, so let me show you the variants.
I think it's really interesting. Like, no one told us that Miracle Molly was a villain. We just kind of assumed she was.
Because she's part of the Insanity Collective.
Yeah, but we didn't know anything about it. Now it's like, oh, maybe she isn't. Maybe she's something else.
I really like the Insanity Collective, and also you can tell the members, they all are following Master Wise. They all believe in this philosophy in a way, but they all are very different about it. And some of them seem more villainous than others. So I like a group with that have different levels of villain to them. I'd say the worst thing about them is probably their name. They sound like an indie band from maybe like the late '90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
I might be thinking of Animal Collective though. I don't know. So here is the Art Germ variant.
Almost everyone who's bought Batman today has also bought that variant.
Yeah.
It's like a 1-for-1.
Not at all surprised. Then we have the 1 in 25 Federici variant. Of course, Federici's been doing all these really great, just black and white hand sketch variants on all the Bat books on Joker. I think he did one for Batman the Detective.
Yeah, Robin.
Yeah, these are awesome. We are selling it while supplies last for $30. And lastly, here is the 1 in 50 Art Germ foil variant. There's also no trade dress on this. I'm trying to blind you. We're selling this while supplies last for $55, or you can look for them at your own store or wherever you can get them. I got them. They're all in my collection.
So next up is a new book from Boom Studios. It feels like every week we're getting a new Boom Studios #1, and every one of them has been really good so far. Yep. It's kind of killing my budget because I'm like, well, I'll try it out, but I can't like this one. And then I like them. So this is called Eve. This is by Jo Mi Jeong, I believe. I'm probably butchering the name, but it is a very interesting story. So you see the cover there. This girl on like a little raft with a teddy bear. It's easy to come into it with preconceived notions of what this book is going to be like or what the tone of it is. It's a sci-fi post-apocalyptic book. You may get a little hint of that from the cover, but it has so much more. It's not your Mad Max type of post-apocalyptic. It's not your like X-Men, Days of Future Past. It's a very different environmental thing that has happened, and as you can tell on the cover with the water. But this book starts kind of in the past where there is this girl named Eve living with her dad in some sort of facility. It's pseudo-futuristic, at least kind of techy, and everything seems to be going fine, and he's got some job. I don't think we quite know what his job is, but it's definitely a sciencey job, and they're eating breakfast at this table, and there's a big screen and it looks like they're eating. I forgot where it was initially. It's like on the beach or something. She's like, "Oh, can we be in New Orleans?" He's like, "Sure," and he changes it, and it's like a live stream from New Orleans, and everything's going really, really well until suddenly the dad starts to get a little bit more grim and being like, "I'm sorry I have to do this," and the girl's like, "You're kind of scaring me," and then she wakes up in a pod, and there is a talking bear there who is basically like, "I can't tell you what's going on because it would probably it would mentally break you if I told you what's going on, so I'm slowly going to piece out what's happening." I could go into full detail about this issue because I really liked it. needless to say, there is a lot more than meets the eye. Maybe she, was asleep a long time. Maybe she wasn't. Maybe what.
I'm getting some Matrix vibes
Yeah,
here.
maybe what she saw wasn't real. I mean, there's a lot of questions that get brought up in this. This robot bear is awesome, though. It's not really a spoiler. It's a robot. It's kind of like a bear. But there's a scene where it has to carry her, and it has like these long legs that like stick out of the bottom and walks. So it's got this little bear body and then these long legs. It's really aesthetically interesting, but you learn more about what happened to this world and what the what Eve's mission is, which I think is a very unique mission. When I read it, I was like, I don't really know how this is going to work, but it's I want to see what happens because it is such a interesting concept that is kind of hinted at the beginning, and when you're like, oh, now I know why they were talking about that.
We're allowed to say what is in solicitations because that's not spoiler. That's something that's, and I remember the solicitation for it. I think her quest has something to do with finding her real father, is what I thought the solicitation was.
Yes, that is hinted at, but also she does have a separate mission that is very enticing. I love these, like, you've got this mission to go to this place, and you're gonna go on some adventures while you're there. It's a little bit of like We Live, where they had to get like point A, point B, and there's a lot that happens. That is kind of this as well. A lot of stuff's kind of hinted at what she's going to be encountering on her way. I think this is really cool. Boom has done it again. It is another really interesting concept with great execution, which seems to be like their, bread and butter at this point.
It's another 5-parter that, like when you talk about Wynd later, is probably going to not be a 5-parter.
Yes, the story in this, if you say it's 5 parts, I don't see how it's going to happen. You may achieve one of the kind of missions she's on, like locating this. Is it her father? Is it not? But there's another part. I'm like, that's going to take way longer than this. So
just remember, everyone, something's killing the children. That was supposed to end at issue like 9 or 10.
Yeah, and we're well past that.
Yeah. Boom's being smart about this. They're just making sure that the public likes the thing and then continuing it.
I do recommend this. I say definitely try out the first issue. All the Boom stuff so far I've enjoyed, and I'm really looking forward to this one as well. It's got some great variant covers. So we've got a Mirka and Dolfo variant. That tree in the background is an important part of this.
The book is called Eve. There's a tree.
Yeah. It may also involve small crabs. I'll tell you that. So if that doesn't intrigue you, the whole beginning part, the first few pages are actually like, there's these little kinds of crabs and they do this thing. And I was like, that's not how I expected this to start. There is a 1 in 10, the virgin version of the Mirka and Dolfo cover that we are selling for $20. There is a 1 in 25 Shimizu variant where you get a little bit of hint of the tube thing she's in and some of those trees. Again, we're selling this for our customers for $25. This is the 1 in 50 Eniac Lee variant, which is awesome. It's a beautiful cover.
Yeah, that's great.
The bear in that one gives me a very Winnie the Pooh vibe with his little pot belly. And then finally we have the 1 per store Anadito variant that we are selling to our customers for $20, but only 1 per store.
All right, so King in Black is over, but those of you who thirst for a new Marvel event book, they have one that is very different that is starting this week. It is called Heroes Reborn. It is a 7-part series, and I'm here to tell you what it is about. A lot of customers have been coming in. They don't quite understand what it is.
Yeah.
We've gotten to read some of the preview versions. I've read up to issue number 4, so I know a lot about this book. It begins with Blade waking up in just sort of a pool of dried blood in some really just sort of a crappy flat in London. He doesn't remember how he got there. I mean, he literally wakes up and he's not the sort who drinks alcohol or anything, so it's not at all normal for him. So he goes out into the world and he tries to figure out how he got there. And what he realizes is that while it is the world he knows, it's different. In fact, he figures out the difference pretty quickly. There are no Avengers. The team The Avengers does not exist and never has existed. So that is sort of the premise. It is a world like the Marvel Universe, but no Avengers. Now, what's going to fill the void of the Avengers? It is the Squadron Supreme. That's who the team that is sort of running things is. That's Hyperion is sort of the leader of the team. This first issue has a lot to do with Hyperion. It has a lot to do with what he does, who are the Squadron Supreme. The president also is Agent Coulson, is the president in this world. So it's a big history story. Jason Aaron's writing this. And Blade just doesn't really understand why. It doesn't seem like the world is worse. It's just different. And that's sort of what the driving mystery is. Now, with the Avengers not there, a lot of characters have ended up in different roles than they would have. And so we get some interesting mashups. We get some characters who take on altogether different roles. I know an upcoming issue, we have Miles Morales. He is not a Spider-Man. He's actually Falcon. So a lot of stuff like that Jason Aaron's playing around with, and quite heavily. He doesn't just touch on these. These characters do a lot of things. Like in the first issue, you get Doctor Doom has got the gem of Cyttorak, so he becomes Doctor Juggernaut. He's I guess they're just kind of in the first issue. They want to we're gonna do this sort of thing.
He's got brains and brawn.
yeah. Like he needs more power.
Yeah, exactly.
And a whole country. So probably my coolest sort of character in the first one is the Silver Witch. It is Scarlet Witch, and we don't know how this happened, so this isn't much of a spoiler, but somehow her Quicksilver got killed, and she was able to, with her witch powers, I guess, absorb his speed. So she's a Silver Witch. She's really fast, but she still has her witch powers, and she's not at all happy with the Squadron Supreme. In fact, the thing that I gather from this is, while the Squadron Supreme, they are the good guys like the Avengers, they have not dealt with things like the Avengers. Things have happened. They even had their own civil war, like the Avengers had, but things haven't ended as nicely. In fact, it's not in the first issue, but I know later in it's revealed, and they have a one-shot on it. They apparently get into a fight with the X-Men. There was Avengers versus X-Men. Well, that ended fairly amicably. Not with the Squadron. The Squadron, they killed most of the mutants, and they killed Professor X. This isn't the solicitation of one of the upcoming ones, so I'm not spoiling it. So Magneto is sort of leading the last of them. So this is a very different world, and there's some real severe consequences to it. I thought it was a fun read, especially after just sort of King in Black was great, but it was very much you got to save the world, you got to save the universe. This is different. The stakes are a little lower. It's more Twilight Zone. It's more, why is this world this way? And is Blade the only one that still remembers it? And also, how's he going to get to the bottom of it? Well, Blade tries to think, what is it that really tied the Avengers together? Maybe it's their leader. In fact, he discovers nobody ever found Captain America in the ice. So I wonder what he's going to do next. I wonder what he's going to do in issue number 2. So there's a little explanation on what Heroes Reborn is. I think Marvel, they've been flashing around a lot of ads, but not really telling people, here's what it's going to be. So I hope that helps you decide if you want it or not. We've got several variants. Also, I've been enjoying it because I know the Squadron Supreme, but not real well. And each issue follows one of their members. It's been really fun. I just read issue number 4 that followed Dr. Spectrum. The art's done by James Stokoe, who does, that just insanely detailed, crazy, sort of indie, almost like old school Ninja Turtle style.
Yeah, very Eastman.
And in it, Rocket Raccoon goes up against, with his Groot gun, goes up against Dr. Spectrum. It was an incredible issue. I mean, they're firing stars at each other, and I can't wait to talk about that one. So this is the Pacheco Squadron Supreme variant. You can see that. And of course, Squadron Supreme is Marvel's group that's supposed to be sort of like the Justice League.
Yeah, you can find the analogies, the analogs everywhere in it.
Yeah. And then we have this awesome Art Germ variant, which if, I had the Marvel symbol, I could be like, it's a Wonder Woman variant by Art Germ, because he's done enough of them. Then here we have, this is the Gatefold one by Coella. So this one opens up, and you get to see more of the scene with Dr. Juggernaut fighting Hyperion. And then we have the action figure variant, which they're doing one per issue based on whatever member of the squadron they're following. So each issue follows a member of the squadron. The backup story is always about Blade and or possibly other people who realize this world isn't right, sort of gathering and trying to figure out what's going on. So, which I have no idea what's going on, but I'm just going to here and say Mephisto. I don't know that. It's just, I'm allowed to speculate. This is the Joshua Cassera Stormbreaker variant. Blade on it. It's amazing all the things they're doing with Blade these days. They're really.
It's a very interesting character to focus on.
Here is the Mephisto trading card variant. Is he behind it? We'll have to.
I don't know. We got a trading card.
And then here's Blade's trading card variant. And then here is the 1 in 25 McGinnis variant to Squadron Supreme. We're selling it while supplies last for $15. And lastly, here is the 1 in 50 Varegi variant. A lot to look at and take in there. That we are selling for $30.
So my question would be, we had Empire, we had King in Black.
Yes.
Should people pick this up? There can be event fatigue, one thing after another. Do you feel like this is one that, people should read, or is it fun, like enough to pick it up? I mean, we know there's not as many tie-ins. There are tie-ins, but they're one-shots and maybe a little bit easier to consume.
I think that's it. This one is a lot easier to get into, and I think it's going to appeal to anyone who, by the end of King in Black, was like, it's just too much. Yeah. It's end of the world every issue. End of the world. Nola's coming. Nola's coming. This one, Jason Aaron, he is having a good time with it. That's what I would say. I'm enjoying it. I like King in Black for what it was. This is completely left field. This is completely different. I mean, how many people even really know much about Squadron Supreme? Yeah. So I think it's appealing, and I'm enjoying it. And I think the right people hopefully have heard how I've described it. They'll get it. And people who are like, too many Marvel events, and I heard what you said, and it doesn't sound like it's for me. Well, that's perfect. Yeah. So I like that they're not necessarily, I'm sure they want you to think that there's something huge going to come out of it, but they haven't been promising huge changes out of it like they do with a lot of things, and that almost kind of frees you up to enjoy the ride rather than being like, well, what's the thing? What's the big twist? Or feeling let down when whatever comes out of it doesn't matter. Now, the only thing that might come out of it, I would say, is they have these new characters who are, some are mashups, some are characters but they've taken on different mantles. Well, if Blade's able to put the universe back, why couldn't one of them come to the normal Marvel universe the way, like, Miles came from the Ultimate Universe? Yeah. That's the only thing that could happen, but I don't know. Yeah. I mean, there's so many first appearances and mashups and all that and all these, but they're fun. I enjoy reading it. I don't know if any of them are going to stick. Well, I'm excited about it. Another thing that was exciting this week, segue, is America Chavez #3. So this is a big one because this is the issue. Issue 2 left us on a big cliffhanger. This whole series has been kind of we're going to reveal America's secret origin and where she got her powers from and everything. And the last issue was, I've got a lot of things to tell you, a character says, and then it left off. I was coming to this one being like, okay, there's going to be suddenly a meteor crashes and the conversation gets interrupted and we push it off to the next issue. But that is not the case. This issue tells you
pretty completely who America Chavez is, what her origin is, where she's from, who her family is, why she got these powers. This is really big. If you're a fan of the character, we know the character's been used a lot more lately. Um, this is pretty important because it's hard to talk about this issue because the whole issue is kind of one big spoiler for her past. There's flashbacks about 15 years where you do see her parents and what how she would have got these powers that she has, um, and kind of hints at her larger universe and what could come out of this. Um, there may be a family member who is in it that has some ideas about her powers and how they can be used. So I can't say a whole lot about it because literally, like from the first page, someone says, you know, I'm so and so, and this is how I'm related to you. It's no, you're not. That's just a figure of speech or whatever. And they're like, nope, let me tell you. And then it goes into kind of a full explanation, history lesson of America Chavez and the kind of secret origin of her power. So really cool. If you're reading the series, it's really great. Carlos Gomez's art in this is just super cool, just very epic and superhero-y. So recommended. I wish I could say more about it, but this is one you're going to have to pick up. Once people find out this is her big origin issue, I think people are going to really be after it. It has a variant, and this one is by Betsy Cola, which is such a great name and really nice cover.
Okay, so this week I read Eniac number 3. We are fortunate enough to be one of the few stores that got to be Bad Idea launch stores. Once we heard Matt Kent was on board with them, we signed up right away. I have been enjoying Eniac immensely, and this issue is just as tense and scary as the previous two. Eniac is scary in that way. It's sort of like a big brother is watching you fear. It's not necessarily, Freddy's under your bed.
Yeah.
It's more, it's an alien sort of scary. Even though Eniac is an AI that we created, we don't know how it's changed and how it's grown, and it studies us. And in this issue, you see that it knows us better than we know ourselves, to the point it's everywhere. Anywhere there's electronics, you cannot hide from it. It has ways of blackmailing people. Like Matt Kent has given this a lot of thought. You can tell. It isn't just because the premise of it is since the 80s, ENIAC has been in control of all the nuclear weapons. Okay, well, that's the big threat. That's why we got to send people to stop ENIAC. But that is the tip of the iceberg of what an AI can do. And I think Kent really sat there and wrote out a long laundry list of, well, if it's in all electronics and if it knows us and studies us and can figure us out, it could do all these other things. I mean, to the point of like driving people mad. It's a really, really cool issue, and it's something I find personally scary. I like the idea of AI, and I don't think movies take it far enough. It usually just ends up being sort of a Terminator thing. This is a lot more psychological horror. So I don't know if you guys out there have picked up the other two issues. I know they're a little hard to find.
Yep.
But I recommend it. I really hope that they make a film out of this. I think it would be great material for a film, because Eniac is one of those villains that isn't present yet is the crux of everything.
Yeah.
Everything everyone does, and it makes it scarier. So in this issue, they have located someone who actually built a coding that could destroy Eniac. And this was a long time back. And Eniac, of course, made it back when they did it. He foiled their plans, I can't tell you how, in a very historically known way, and ruined this person's life. Made it where no one wanted anything to do with them. Made it where this person's like nuts. Well, finally, we're in the last few days before Eniac's supposed to launch all these nukes. They go to this person, get the code, and they actually go to Eniac's base, or where they think Eniac's base is, which is crazy what they find there. It's very mind bending what they find, and it ends with a cliffhanger, sort of classic "what would you do"
Mm.
situation, which has to do with this code. I'll tell you, not everyone actually 100% thinks Eniac is bad. Funny enough, even though it's this controlling power, there's also this idea of would the world be worse without this? Like, what has it all been doing bad, or is it trying to do good in its own way? But it just has to stop us from
Mm.
hurting ourselves. A lot to it, a lot to unpack. Really cool. I can talk about it for a long time. So
How many
that's
issues
it.
are
Just
left in
four.
this?
Just one more issue,
One more issue.
and
Wow.
it's done. Yeah.
I'm sure you can kind of feel that countdown clock in it getting
This
right.
one ended. I mean, they're right at Eniac's doorstep, and they have a big choice to make. It's definitely the penultimate issue here.
Yeah, just wait till later because that's Matt Kent. There is another Matt Kent book coming out that could not be more different than that, and I can't wait to talk about it. But first, we have Suicide Squad #3. This is the first tie-in with the crossover between Teen Titans Academy and Suicide Squad. And if you read the previous issue of Teen Titans Academy from last week, you know that the new character Bolt is has been targeted by Amanda Waller as someone that she wants. We don't necessarily know quite yet why Amanda Waller wants Bolt. Bolt is also a speedster that
Yep.
taps into the Speed Force, but different than Barry Allen or Wally West. She can only do it in short bursts. She can't run super fast over long periods of time, but it's pretty much alluded to that she's actually faster than any other speedster, but only in short bursts. She gives you very much like a sprinter, like Olympic sprinter vibe.
She's got just the right code name for that.
Yeah, it's really great. I love in just, I mean, very few issues because, this is issue 3 of this, but her first time in it, and we're only up to issue 3 on Titans Academy, which she hasn't been in, like, on every page. But already in this, I'm like, I like this character a lot, and I think she's, I mean, super compelling. So in this, we see it from the Suicide Squad's perspective, where Amanda Waller comes to Peacemaker, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I keep getting that in Peacekeeper from Batman confused. It's Peacemaker, the with the silver helmet. Everybody knows the silver helmet, and
I get those confused.
yeah, she basically tells him like you're in charge of this team of Suicide Squad, which are some very select members, and your job is to go and retrieve Bolt. He says, well, are we supposed to break into the Titans Tower and get her? He said, no, there is, a certain time where her and her friends go out, they go see a movie, and before she goes back to the tower, she likes to have a quick run, just kind of like, stretch her legs, yeah. Which is funny because she actually doesn't have legs below the knee, which is another super interesting thing about her character, but yeah, she has to like exert some of the Speed Force energy she has, and apparently this is a thing she does all the time. Well, this is the moment that Waller says you need to go and retrieve her. So that is the setup. It's really cool. It's I think we saw in the last Teen Titans Academy that this is not Waller's first attempt to get Bolt, so she's really after her for some reason. And Bolt knows that Amanda Waller is after her. So, really interesting dynamic there. The other part of this that's really interesting is Superboy is on the team. Connor Kent, clone of Superman, Lex Luthor and Superman combined clone, is a member of the Suicide Squad. And, this is traditionally a team of villains. So, why is he on it? There's actually quite a bit more to him being on it than just the convenience factor or he has nothing better to do. There's some stuff at play here that's really interesting. It's alluded to at the beginning that there's something wrong with him. We have the new character. I think her name is Nocterra, which I'm not
Right.
sure. Or it's not Nocturnal, but she's like all in black. She's a new character that I think appeared in the previous issue or maybe issue 1 of Suicide Squad, and she can kind of manipulate people. She can kind of explore their minds and manipulate them a little bit. She says when I look in Superboy's mind, it's almost like reading a Wikipedia page about Superboy. It's just the facts, no emotion, no anything. So something's missing from Superboy. So that's kind of the other mystery that I think is going to be kind of a long-term thing. Is there's stuff with Superboy going on that may even go to pre New 52 Superboy. We do see hints of him with the original Titans, him with the leather jacket and the little sunglasses. So all that to say, this is really good. I think Teen Titans Academy is fantastic, and I think this new Suicide Squad is really, really good. Um, and I think this crossover is going to be super interesting. There's a final page reveal that I don't know if is a super big surprise, but it's just a really cool thing to see. So, highly recommend Suicide Squad number 3. This variant gives a little bit away, but this is the Porel variant right there with Red X, who may play a part in this. So everybody's all about the Red X right now, and he's involved. So definitely check that one out.
Just skip right to that last panel.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, I think it's cool. DC, it's very ambitious. They're having a crossover between those two books, because talk about two books with the most characters.
Oh yeah.
Let's take the two books with the most characters and have them cross over. Good luck, writers.
Have fun juggling that, and it's done really well. Even the Suicide Squad team that's in it is not your traditional ones. There's some characters in it that are characters we haven't seen in a while and have very specific skill sets that I like that they're playing with that. It's like this is kind of a modular team where characters come and go, and we get to see different ones.
So I read Batman's Second Son #2. This is a 4-issue series which further explores what creates the next Batman, Jace Fox. Why does he turn into him? So in these, of course, this is before Jace becomes Batman.
Mm-hmm.
He has done some tours in the military. He's done some Black Ops stuff. He is trained, but he is not Batman. He hasn't decided to become Batman, nothing. In fact, his brother Luke Fox is still Batwing in these. You see him on the cover there. So in this issue, it is finally revealed why their sister Tiffany is, or I'm sorry, Tammy. They have two sisters, Tammy and Tiffany. Why Tammy, the older sister, is in the hospital. We knew she was in the hospital back with Next Batman. They just never really got around to telling you why. And it's actually a deep cut from something that happened in Batwing mixed with something that happens during A-Day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so really trying to tie everything together. And in it, the younger sister, Tiffany, who, this isn't a spoiler because we've seen it, in Batman Black and White, eventually it looks like she becomes sort of a sidekick. They don't call her Robin, and where she's not at all that in this. She's still just a little girl. She is very upset about what's happened with her sister. And so Luke and Jace, in their different ways, make promises to her to kind of make her feel better. So Luke Fox is going to find the person who most did what happened to her to put her in the hospital. Which I'll go ahead. It has to do with poisoning. He needs to find the poison to get an antidote. So he goes after that person. Meanwhile, Jace finds out that there's, and this is funny. I like the updating of these comics because this is something you never read in an older comic. Anyway, Jace finds out she's also upset because there is some social media person who has taken a picture of her in her hospital bed. And Jason's like, why is he posting this on the internet? And Tiffany's like, well, she is the daughter of the richest man in Gotham. Because, of course, Lucius has all the wealth, yeah. And so for just the fact that she's the daughter of a super rich guy, well, this guy's going to get more clicks. And it just makes her upset. So Jace decides, you know what, I can't do much. I don't believe in karma. I'm going to find this guy, and I'm going to make him pay. So he goes after this social media guy, and he makes him pay. It's a good scene, but we might not see the end of that guy. I kind of wonder if that thread is still left open. So so we got Luke doing his Batwing stuff. We got Jace doing his own thing, and let's just say that one of them succeeds, one of them fails, and you get a sense at the end that things are starting to shift as far as one wanting to be a hero and the other one feeling maybe it's my time.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the brothers still do not get along, they do not talk. It's a lot of family stuff. This is some fairly dense family issues. I still haven't seen the turn, and by the turn I mean I've yet to see. Okay, Jace is going now. I'm going to be Batman. That doesn't happen this issue, but we're building towards something here. So that's my little rundown of that. And here is the variant by Francisco Mattina.
It's a great variant.
Yeah, I know Batwing. Those colors, it really work.
Batwing's a super cool character too, and I'm glad that this series is exploring him as a character because, I mean, his series was great, and he's got such a cool suit, and it's cool that he's getting a little bit more play. Next up is another book by James Tynion and another book from Boom. This is Wynd, number 6 of 5. So, like we were talking about before, Boom titles, if they're successful, they will continue. I mean, if the property, they believe in it, if the sales are there, and Wynd is one of them, which, I mean, I could tell from issue 1 that this was going to be a great book. So it's been on hiatus for a little while, and this week issue 6 comes out. The other thing I wanted to show with it, the trade of the first, I guess, 5 issues. Gotta sneeze. Okay, I'm good. It dissipated.
Yes, we record this live.
Yeah, this is live. No editing out sneezes. So Wynd takes place in a world where magic is outlawed, and there is a boy named Wynd who has pointy ears that he has to hide from people because, if you're discovered to have any kind of weird magic-ness to you, you are taken away or killed or something horrible. So he has to survive like this, and starts a long adventure of, kind of embracing your differences, and it is considered a boombox book, which is an all ages, but I do think it hits on some pretty serious topics in it. There are deaths, there are, a guy who hunts down the magical people, who the bandage man who, kills people who have this, or who are helping hide people with magic abilities. It's a really interesting, super well told story. James Tynion is, you could tell he's put a lot of heart into this, and I'm super excited that it is continuing with issue 6, starting book 2 of the story. If you haven't read Wynd, highly recommend it. It's not just a kid's book. I think it is. Everyone who's read it has really enjoyed it. All the issues that came out are like double-sized issues, so you get a lot of story, great characters. But yeah, we have issue 6, and the same day we have volume 1 for only $14.99, so you can pretty much catch up with the series right away, in one day. Highly recommended. Definitely check it out. It's been one of my favorite series. I'm glad it's back.
Yeah, there's so many people who have realized that James Tynion's writing.
Yeah,
that I think it's really smart that not only they continued it, but they're like, let's get that trade out real quick.
It's so funny too. He's doing books like Wynd, which are have some serious topics. Also Department of Truth, which is just like crazy.
Yeah. So. Okay, so Carnage, Black, White, and Blood number 3 comes out tomorrow. Like issue 1 and 2, it is 3 different standalone stories in this book. I've really enjoyed 1 and 2, and number 3 did not disappoint. So the first story in it is by Dan Slott and Greg Smallwood. It involves Carnage. Carnage is at a concert. He's killed the band, and he has killed everyone at the concert except for one guy who had to hide underneath all the bodies to survive. Now, why would he do this? Carnage himself explains. Like, I'll tell you, but you should read his wording. Basically, he's mad at the band because he used to love them, but their latest album has gotten weak. It's like a heavy metal
Oh
band, but
no, they're sellouts.
yeah, they've gotten a little softer, and so Carnage kills them over it.
Gosh.
I think that's funny. So this guy survives it, but he has sort of like survivor's remorse. Worse than that, in the paper, Carnage, as they're dragging him off, or on the news, I guess, on the news footage, they're like, "Oh, you almost killed everyone." He's like, "I never leave anyone alive. He's already dead. He just doesn't know it."
Oh gosh.
Yes, and so this guy is so shook by this. He's so scared. And is there any truth to this? You'll just have to read. You'll just have to find out. But let's just say this guy is really put through the ringer. The second story is by Carla Pacheco and Chris Mooneyham. It's a pirate tale. So it's set back in pirate days. And there is the first appearance of Cletus Cassidy's ancestor, the cruel, mad Captain Cassidy, who does have Carnage powers. So, without telling you all this, imagine ship-to-ship battles, but one of the ships has a Carnage symbiote on it, who is able to reach across and attack people, who can grab cannonballs midair and sling them back. I mean, that's awesome. That's fun. Well, what if another ship that they're fighting happens to also have another certain major character's ancestor on it, who also has a symbiote, and they get into a ship-to-ship fight.
Wow.
And maybe the ship is called the Venom.
I don't know if that story is canon in the Marvel Universe, but I like it.
I believe it is now.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, right there. I knew as I was
I want
reading
a whole
it, I'm like,
series of just like Avengers, but they're all pirates and they all captain their own ships, and it's just a pirate universe.
This Carnage Black, White, and Blood, I do not in any way feel like they're good just going with any old story or the first ones.
Yeah.
I feel like they're asking all the writers, tell us your best Venom stories or your Carnage stories, and they're picking some really good ones. So the third one is by Alyssa Wong and Gerardo Sandoval. And it's the shortest one, but it's a comic convention. And a lot of people there are dressed up as Carnage. Well, they get rounded up by people dressed as Cult of Carnage members who are real Cult of Carnage people.
Okay.
And they're killing these these cosplay kids because they're trying to summon the real Carnage. But what happens if maybe the real Carnage isn't as far away as they think? And does he really like what they're doing or how they're doing it?
Wow.
So all that, one issue. Let's see. We got some variants here.
Love that one.
Yeah. This is the Kevin Eastman variant.
I think that's a ratio variant.
I think it's the other one that's the
Okay.
ratio. There was some confusion with it. I think the Eastman one might have been the open order one. This is the McCrae variant,
That one's really cool.
and I think this is the one in 25 for 30. But whichever one of those is the one in 25 is 30. The other one's open order. I'm pretty sure that this is the ratio variant, though. There's been a lot of confusion. Diamond, they got the barcodes wrong, and then I also want to mention. This is Carnage Black, White, and Blood #1, the second print. It comes out tomorrow with a recolored Gleason cover. From what I've seen, this is going for more than cover price online. So we like to tell everybody about things they might want to be looking for at their comic shop or out in the wild. You may want to grab this one up. Seems to be a pretty hot second printing.
Awesome. Next up is one that I wasn't expecting. I like Green Lantern, but this is issue 2. I was like, okay, I'm going to skim through it, just see what happens. Usually something big doesn't happen until the end of the first story arc, whatever. This is a really big issue for Green Lantern, and I think a big issue for the DC Universe in general. This picks up after the kind of assassination of one of the Guardians of the Universe.
Yep.
And that one event really shifts how the Green Lantern Corps is going to operate. Mainly, without spoiling too much of the details, they are kind of downsized.
Yeah.
a lot of the lanterns lose their sectors. All of a sudden, all these, these little bubbles pop up, and it says, I don't think it says deactivated, but it says something like, a lot of lanterns are out of a job because they say, hey, we have this United uh, Planets group that Superboy started. They're gonna do, kind of the other part of the policing. Where you don't need the Green Lanterns as much anymore. We're kind of a coalition of planets now, and we can handle, our own stuff.
Right.
So this is, a pretty big deal for the Green Lantern Corps. But their job's not over. The lanterns that are left have a new mission in which I always love with Green Lanterns when it's like go out to furthest reaches of space that we don't know anything about and explore that. So that's really cool. I'm really excited about that because I love, discovering the new planets and the weird stuff they find there and all the mysteries that come with that. But another thing happens with some of the lanterns that are still around and have to stay on Oa that is really big that may also quickly diminish the number of lanterns down to hardly any. Not going to spoil it, but it's a very big deal. And at the end, this, whatever happens, is so big that a somewhat familiar lantern shows up that may have another book, not titled Green Lantern, it may be called Far Sector. I don't know how to not spoil that. I think she's on the variant cover. But it's cool. It's really bringing a lot of the lanterns together. Ones that haven't, you've got Teen Lantern, you've got spoiler Joe from Far Sector is in this, and there's some stuff talked about too about the universe that is kind of post Infinite Frontier, all the events that happen in that are kind of alluded to. So this seems like it's going to be a big book for kind of the future of the DC universe going forward. So I really, really like this issue. I'm really glad that Green Lantern is now kind of is on top. So
I remember in Future State Green Lantern, there were hardly any of them who had working rings.
yes,
They were just like using their muscle and their
Yeah.
brains and all. Anything from this do you think is heading into that?
I think so. Remembering what happened in Future State, because the main character in Future State Green Lantern was John Stewart.
Right.
He is the main one in this, and kind of the teammates he had in that are the ones that he has in this. I have a feeling that's and the big thing that happens in it could be one of the things that causes what we see in Future State.
Interesting.
So here is the Hitch variant. You see Joe from Far Sector on. So really, really great issue of Green Lantern. Really excited about it. Really quick, I do want to show. I completely skipped over these. Wynd did have some variants. Real quick, we have the Gonzalez variant, which is really, really cool and colorful.
Yeah, very artful.
That's a open order variant. We have the one per store, which is kind of the virgin cover of number 6 that we have for $25. We have the 1 in 25 Andolfo variant, really, really cool, that we have for $20.
So he didn't start the series with wings.
No.
Okay.
That is a big thing that happens in Volume 1 that I mean, it's not a shocker. There's feathers all over the covers and everything.
Yeah.
But the way that comes about and everything is so good. It's I don't know. The character development in that series is awesome.
Okay, so new indie book from Image Studios, The Good Asian. Now, this is very different than superhero fare. This is definitely what a lot of people look for in indie books. I mean, just take a look at the cover art. This is set in 1936. This book is very, very much noir. It reminds me a lot of noir literature, noir movies. The pacing's that way. but it's a different tale than I've heard in any of that. First and foremost, its main character, which I have to say, let's talk about the title for a minute. So it's called The Good Asian. That seems like a strange title, but what I'll say is when you put a qualifier to something, then that has meaning.
Yeah.
So if you say the good Asian, you have to go, well, what are they meaning? That means you have to point out the ones that are good.
Yeah.
So since it's set back in the 30s, obviously this has to do with a lot of racism towards Asians back then. And it is written by an Asian individual. I will try the name. His name is Pornsik Pishenchot, with art by Alexandri Tefentki. Okay, so this is set back in 1936. It follows a Chinese detective, which that is unheard of. Like, Chinese detectives, they just didn't really do that. He's working with the police to try to help mitigate, I guess, what's going on between them, because the police are all sort of white, and the Asian Americans in the Asian part of town. This is very cinematic. It starts out even with like a prelude scene where it's him in a detention facility as he's arrived in the country, and we get to see what they go through in this facility and how many weeks they're there before they let them out, questioning them, making sure that they're really who they say they are. But after that scene, it goes to a title screen. I mean, it's like that scene's over. Title screen, there's the title, there's the names of who made it. So once again, very cinematic. But in this, it's a lot of setup. It's a lot of who is this character. He's very conflicted. He is trying to help his people, but to help them, he often has to, I guess, turn them in for lesser crimes. So he'll be with the cops, and the cops are trying to like bust heads, and he'll see the people try to make up bad excuses, and instead he'll catch them for certain things, so that way the cops won't like totally bash their heads in.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of it. It's a lot about his conflict and who he is and his position. It ends with, I think, what is going to be the setup of the series, which is a body is discovered, and it is a dead white man killed with a hatchet in the Asian part of town. Is he going to tell? Is he not? Is he going to help the people who found it? Is he going to help the cops? Where do his loyalties lie? So if you like noir, if you like that style, that art, this is probably for you. It is paced in that way, though. It's definitely not just like, one fight scene after another. It's a little bit literary.
Yeah.
So
I like that they're doing that. That it's like, if you're gonna go for a genre, go for the genre. And everything that entails. Don't try to be like, oh, it's a noir, but there are also superheroes and explosions. It's like, well, that's not noir. I like the heaviness of it.
This is definitely 30s, and it follows that. Even with the language, even with some of the slurs.
Is there anyone named Bubsy or...
Probably. That's issue 2. Here, there is one variant, and there you have it. The variant is done by Sana Takada. I get like a little sort of Blade Runner feel from this.
Yeah.
Of course, Blade Runner, that's funny to say because Blade Runner took from noir, so it's almost circular now.
Next up, we have a new book from Garth Ennis from Upshot. This is Marjorie Finnegan, Temporal Criminal. Say that 5 times fast. Temporal Criminal is a hard thing to get out. This is really fun. This is I believe it's 5 issues. I think even on the cover, it's one of 8. It's an 8-issue miniseries about Marjorie Finnegan, who definitely gives you Harley Quinn vibes. The kind of the demeanor, the kind of laughs through any situation, and she goes through time as a criminal and steals really rare artifacts or pretty much anything from history that could end up being worth a lot. Like, this begins in ancient Egypt, and she is with a pharaoh or something who's like talking down to his women in his court, and eventually she just gets tired of it. It's like, forget this, and she pulls out a shotgun because she's taken all these pieces and mixed them up in different timelines. So she has the tech from the future and the past, so she's pretty much unstoppable, which I love that kind of concept. But the whole time she's laughing, she's having a good time with it. It's over the top. She is a criminal, but she's very likable. And so you kind of, this is definitely a setup issue where you see where her home base is, which is really interesting. It's kind of in between time.
I was gonna say when her home base
Yeah.
is.
She kind of has a roommate that is a severed head that can talk, that's like hooked up to all these wires and everything, that she kind of pokes fun at, and they have that kind of banter relationship. But there is another character that might be related to her, whose job is to follow behind her and kind of clean up her messes. And she leaves big messes, like leaving some technology in a certain era where it shouldn't. So there may be some Vikings getting, World War II cannons shot at their ships. It's so much fun. It's crazy. It is Garth Ennis, so it's not as dark as The Boys. It's not as brutal as The Boys. I mean, there's some violence, but even it is like so kind of goofy, over the top. It is mature, but it's not gory. And there's a lot of language, a lot of situations that are mature, but it's nowhere near as just over the top as something like The Boys or other things that he's worked on.
I mean, Garth Ennis writing a time-traveling criminal who tries to have fun. I mean, that's perfect.
Yeah. So there's some great variants. There is the Diodato Jr. variant, very much his style, and another one I love. This is the Frank Cho variant.
Okay, so I'm going to go over Swamp Thing number 3. This is a series. It's going to be 10 issues. It follows the brand new Swamp Thing, Levi Kamai. And check out the cover. Is that Poison Ivy?
Mm-hmm.
Well, why are there two of her? I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So in this issue, Levi Kamai, he is the new Swamp Thing, and he hasn't been the Swamp Thing for very long. In fact, he gets a brain scan, like an MRI or a CAT scan, trying to figure out, what is going on with him. And during this, like with Swamp Thing, it's not that easy to nail down Swamp Thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you destroy him somewhere, the green is everywhere.
Yeah.
So he ends up leaving his own body, rebuilding himself somewhere completely different in the green, and he goes on an adventure while he's getting his CAT scan.
I wish I could do that anytime I had to go to the dentist or whatever. I'm like, okay, I'll leave that there, and I'm going to go off do something else.
So he's in the green, and he's trying to find his friend from the previous 2 issues when he runs into Poison Ivy. But she's not calling herself Poison Ivy. She just goes by Ivy. And she's very loopy. She's not talking right. You can tell they even do it in the way that they do her dialogue, the way they write it. So then a little later, I can't tell you bit by bit everything that happens, but a little later, he meets Queen Ivy, who is not as nice. How can there be Queen Ivy and this other Ivy? What is going on there? And what happens when the original Swamp Thing, Alec Holland, shows up? So that's just some of the highlights of this issue for anybody who's been.
It looks like an exciting issue, especially that Alec Holland shows up, and what does he think of this other Swamp Thing? And
I'm glad they got him involved. I thought maybe he'd be in it later, but he's in it, and I think next issue is going to be a lot of him talking with this new Swamp Thing about what's happening. Why are you Swamp Thing now?
Yeah.
And so here we have the variant by Kyle Hotz.
That hair, that Poison Ivy hair is crazy.
Yep.
So next is, like I teased, this other Matt Kent book that came out this week. This is Whalesville X Rocks and Minerals. So this is 2 stories. This is from Bad Idea. So not every store got it. Only the select stores that are part of Bad Idea's initiative or their publishing. This is as different from Eniac as you can get and still be Matt Kent. And this really shows the range of his writing, that he can pivot like that and do a book like this, which takes place inside the belly, the body of a whale, and all the little creatures that live inside of it. It's kind of one of your like Under the Dome, or when you're like people in a bubble story.
Like a bottle episode, but
Kind
the
of,
body of
yeah.
a whale.
But the creatures that live inside of this whale, for some reason or another, don't remember the world outside. So everything they know is inside this whale. There's a little crab. There is a seagull, which I'm still wondering, when the whale goes underwater, where does the seagull go? There's a
Air pockets.
yeah. There's kind of an anglerfish who's stuck inside of a like plastic Ziploc baggie, but just the top part of it, so it can still breathe water. It's very like fantastical, these talking, and like the animals' names are like really normal. Like the crab's name is like Jack or something. Like they're just there's a seahorse that's really fun. And suddenly, what also is really cool, they have like all the driftwood that comes in. They've built like a little city on the side that's really intricate. The art is very interesting in this, very indie.
You can tell by the cover.
Yeah. A human boy gets swallowed by this whale, and for some reason he doesn't necessarily remember what was going on outside either. He has all the questions about, where am I? Who are you? How did I get here? Type thing. But this kind of sets off on this this just very short story about this kid in here learning about the way their little world works inside the whale, and maybe he starts remembering how to get out, or that there's a world. He's getting glimpses of a world outside of it. It's just a fun, very interesting story that you could tell. It's like a story Matt Kent wanted to tell. There's really no good way of like, this isn't going to be an Image miniseries. This is a very specific type of book, and it's not long, so there's not a lot of outlets for this kind of story. That is this, which I love. It's just a one shot. The other story, if it can get any crazier, is super crazy. Rocks and Minerals is a short story about anthropomorphic rocks and minerals that live in this.
Finally.
I know, everyone's been waiting for this, and they are very goofy. I think you can see on the back cover what they actually look like, and they are just little goofy guys. And it's just about their lives. I didn't get to read it as in depth as I read the first story. But they talk about like the great polishing and things that have happened in their world. They have like a sand castle that they have a queen diamond that lives in there, and it's a whole world made up of rocks and minerals. Really just fun one-off story. It's almost like I don't know if I could invest like a 6-issue miniseries, but I can sit down and read this one story and get a lot of enjoyment out of it. So this is a $9.99 book. It's oversized, just a one shot, but I think it's really showing what Bad Idea is willing to do. Like being like, we don't have a brand. We're not just Eniac and Tankers. We also can have these very all ages, but very literary one shot stories. And we know they've got a issue coming up that's about Santa Claus, and they're willing to do whatever the creators want to do, they can do. And I think that's awesome here. Both the stories are written by Matt Kent. So if your store has it, I would definitely check it out, because it is very unique, very interesting, and probably even for the few stores that are getting it under ordered, because it doesn't have that mass market appeal of action or dinosaurs or robots or AI, that kind of thing.
In Whalesville, I haven't read it yet, but I will. The feel I got, it reminded me of like James and the Giant Peach. But
yes, I would say that is a very I almost thought very Pixar, but yeah, very could be a Tim Burton like stop motion thing. Very primed for that kind of telling. So that's a Whalesville, just a one shot at select stores, but definitely worth a read.
So I had the great pleasure of reading Nocterra issue number 3. Issue 1, I was like, this is pretty cool. I like it, but I need more. Issue 2 really got me. Issue 2, I was like, this is fast paced. This is awesome. The villain is so cool. Issue number 3, I like just as much as number 2.
Mm.
Super fast paced. So you still have your main character, Val. She is running her rig, her big semi truck,
Yeah.
trying to get away from this villain whose name is Blacktop Bill. Blacktop Bill, he is pretty much a shadow, except you can see his teeth and a little bit of outline of hair. Very scary individual. In this, Bill displays how much he likes to hurt people, and I mean he enjoys it, and he likes to come up with inventive ways to do it, making him a very scary villain that he so enjoys his villainous work. So they're trying to get away from him. There are some really awesome traps that have been set by the different runners because they're trying to get away from these shadow demon creatures. They need ways to get away. So we get to see some of the cool traps. Both sides have cool weapons. That's what I'll also say. I mean, this is sort of Mad Max style fighting, car to car, and they've come up with really unique weapons for this world of light and dark. I won't reveal. It'll be more fun for you to read it, but the weaponry is really cool. And ultimately, a sacrifice is made to save. The few must die for the rest to be saved, or maybe not die. Actually, maybe not die. But more details are revealed about the grandfather and the granddaughter. They're the original 2 passengers from issue 1, and of course, in issue 2, the grandfather was saying that he might have a way to fix the world. It was his fault. A lot more gets revealed about that by the end of this issue. And then they end up in this cavern, which has luminescent lighting. I won't tell you how it works, but it's a really cool setting. Like, I read it, I looked at the art, and I was like, I really want to go to this place. This sounds really, really neat. And Val's brother, though, he is in a real bad predicament by the end of it. Like, really, really bad. Left me wanting to read the next issue immediately. So if you like the first 2, you're going to really love this. If you still have been like, I don't know if I want to read this, I want to make sure this stays good. It's excellent. It's awesome. It's one of my favorite things by Snyder, in ages. So we got some variants here, some incentive variants. Here is the 1 in 10 Daniel black and white variant we have for $15. And then we have the 1 in 25 virgin version of that for $20 while supplies last, or look for it at whatever store or wherever you shop. We're
Whatever store supplies you your goods.
What goodies are coming out tomorrow.
So, real quick, I didn't get a chance to read it, but we did get Star Wars, The High Republic Adventures #4. This has been a great series, especially, it's a really good series. If you're reading the main High Republic book, it has a pretty straightforward narrative, like the characters it follows, everything. This one, I feel like, does a good job of showing you the different sides of this High Republic world, what the Nile is all about, and what the Jedi of this time are all about. Because you've got like your one character that's kind of joined the Nile, and Marchius Rowe is showing him kind of the ropes and what the Nile are all about. And then the other side, you have kind of them with Yoda and the rest of the Jedi exploring that. So definitely a great book, a great companion piece to the main High Republic book if you're reading it. Also had a 1 in 10 Nathan variant. Spotlight's another one of the characters in it, and that we are selling for $20 to our customers, our locals.
All right, here's a book that's going to be hard for you to find, but I got to mention it. We are sold out of this. It is Batman Fortnite 0 Point #2. They made all retailers placed their orders for this, our locked in orders before number one ever came out.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, we shouted from the rooftops at people, hey, this is coming out. Tell everyone who likes Fortnite. Unfortunately, a lot of people play video games and they don't get to their comic store much. So even though I think when Batman Fortnite came out, the number one, I think we had under 5 people order that. We ordered over 50 copies and we sold out day one.
Yep.
With people still calling us for this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is why we do the show. You know, we really try to get this information out there. So number 2 already sold out, but I still want you to know it's out. As far as what happens in it, Batman, he can't speak in the first few issues, like all the Fortnite characters. He runs into Catwoman. They have just sort of an instant bond. And mainly it's about how does this get reset? This world keeps getting reset, I think, after 22 minutes, something like that. Batman is smart enough. He mementos it, okay? He writes things on himself in a way that even when it gets reset, he has these clues. Mm. And that's what this issue explores. Him being the world's, and I guess Fortnite now's greatest detective, trying to figure this out when he's in this time loop where you lose your memories, but you still have a sense of something. So that's issue 2. It has several variants. I just want to show this one. There's that variant. With Batman, with all the crazy Fortnite people. So just because we're on the internet showing this off, please don't call us asking for it.
No, it's
we would love to sell it to you if we had more.
It's so hard because you know, this is definitely for Batman fans or whatever, but also big time, you know, Fortnite fans. I've met a lot of people that probably have never read a comic or have only read a few here and there, but are big Fortnite players that have come in. And I wish that the push for this had been harder.
Yeah.
You know, telling gamers, like, go to your store to request this, because I really hate that having to tell people, I'm sorry, we're sold out of this.
There are second prints coming out.
I was about to say.
And the second prints do have the codes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a third print of number 1 coming out in a few weeks. So you will eventually just tell your local store what you want, so that way they can actually order it and they can get it for you.
Yes, especially tell them about if you didn't get it, tell them, that there's another printing coming out, and can you be put down to get that one, because don't just assume your store is going to order a ton of the second printing. A lot of times stores just get enough for the people that ask for it, or sometimes with second, third printings, they might not get any at all, just depending on the store.
We ordered over 10 times the amount that people asked us for and still ran out.
Yes, yep. So, crazy stuff. Let's see. I think the last few things I was going to mention are, we had the next issue of Sensational Wonder Woman come out this week, which... much like a lot of these kind of anthology series they've been doing, or series that have one-shot stories in them, this one has 2 stories in it, but the first one is interesting because in almost every panel you're seeing some of the story through this person's cell phone, their iPhone or whatever. Really interesting, kind of people on the scene when Wonder Woman is doing stuff, so really cool. Wanted to mention that one also because it has this beautiful Savage variant.
Yeah, look at that.
That probably stores probably didn't order too many of, just because this is kind of a side series, and variants of that, which are pretty low numbers. So really, really nice. And my last thing that I have too is we have Amazing Spider-Man number 65. We're getting close to Sinister War that was just teased in the previous issue. Slowly but surely, a lot of stuff with Kindred and Kingpin and a lot of the other characters are kind of coming to... I'm sure with Kindred, we're getting close to the end of this huge story arc that's been with him since kind of the beginning.
Kindred was in issue 1.
Is issue 1, and still around, but we've learned a lot more about him, and this continues that in a very interesting way. So
I want to tell you guys about some second prints you might be interested in. So, coming out tomorrow is Black Cotton number 1, second print from Scout Comics. A lot of stores did not get the first print. Scout Comics, they're a lot more visible now because they have signed up with distribution through Lunar, who is doing all the DC distribution. So as we're ordering Batman, we see their comics right side by side with it, so it's a lot easier to catch them now. This second printing, I think it's a bit under ordered. I think it's already going for more online than cover price. One thing I was surprised about, and you were too, is the interior art is black and white. We don't want anyone to purchase this and then go, "Oh, I didn't know that." Like,
Yeah.
so the premise, it's just a reverse history world where the people with money and power happen to be the black people, and the white people are the more traditionally poor ones. And what happens when there's a shooting, a cop killing some unarmed kid, but it's role reversal, so a lot of exploration of that. And if that's your thing, that is what this is about. Just want you to know. Then there is a second printing of Layla Starr #1. I think stores had to order this before the #1 was out, so this is probably also under ordered. I don't think there are many of these out there. We don't have many of these at all available. So that is out tomorrow. You may want to look for that at your store. Silver Coin has a second print of the #1. So if you didn't get that or you want to get them all, that is also out tomorrow. And lastly, We Live #5 has its second print. #5 had a very major event happen in it. Not to mention We Live, like a lot of series that Boom does, although this is Aftershock doing it, is going to be continued. Now, it's going to be continued in a new series starting at #1, though. But there's a lot of sort of first appearances and new powers in this book.
Yeah, it's a very interesting series because you definitely think it's going one way, and then issue 5 came out, and the reveal was such a almost genre change in the story that it really caught a lot of people's attention.
Like that.
Yeah. And it's getting the free comic book day book from Aftershock this year is a We Live one shot.
Yep, that is true. Okay, so that is our show for today. I hope that we have properly titillated when it comes to the comics coming out tomorrow. We hope we've answered a lot of your questions about what's in this book, what's the director's cut versus the other, what was the premise of these books. That's what we try to do. Like we take a lot of time with the show, so it's greatly appreciated that you watch. If you have any comments for us, just leave them in the comment area. I think we're up to about 825 subscribers on our YouTube channel. So just keep climbing up towards 1,000. We're going to reach it someday.
Someday, someone's going to discover it. Someone really famous, Keanu Reeves, is going to watch it and be like, this is my show.
Our last video, Matt Kint commented, and he thanked us for reviewing.
Berserker #2.
Yeah, Berserker #2. So that was really awesome.
Thanks, Matt Kint. I hope you're still watching. I hope you subscribe and like.
Okay, so, we hope you're ready with all the ammunition you need to go into your comic store tomorrow to get all the books that are going to be crazy good. Yeah, happy May the 4th.
May the 4th. Go watch some Star Wars, The Bad Batch is on Disney+. A lot of really cool stuff coming out today. And tomorrow with War of the Bounty Hunters.
Yep. All right, well, we'll see you for our Friday show. This is us signing off.